Welcome to Horror Review Sunday. Let's talk about the fourth greatest B horror movie of all time. It's not the first, it's not the second, certainly not the third, it's the fourth. That's what it says right there. Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. What a weird, silly B horror movie this is. So, this was shot in less than a week on a less than $100,000 budget from the director of Scalps. That is the only thing I've seen of this guy so far. He's done other things since, mainly stuff like this, of this caliber, just cheesy, low budget stuff. And I read that the temple set in this movie was recycled from the movie House 2, so I thought that was interesting. And this movie overall is basically like, it knows what it is. It's like a film noir spoof. It has the cliche, 1940s looking PI going to investigate the disappearance of this girl, played by Linnea Quigley, and he finds her and then finds out that she's got herself in this chainsaw cult. And then you got Gunner Hansen in this movie also, so that was fitting. It was nice to see him in a chainsaw movie, being Leatherface, from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and this movie is absolutely bonkers. So let's just get into it. What are my positives for this movie? I like the lead actor in this movie. I thought he was really good, and I like that he's playing this very overly stereotypical old school detective. Like, he dresses like a detective. He's got the detective's hat. When you think of police detectives, you picture this guy. And I love having Linnea Quigley in the movie also. She, once again, shows everything. She shows her breast, and I love that chainsaw dance towards the end. It's probably the best scene in the movie. It's the one that I will remember forever. It's almost as iconic and awesome as her dance in Return of the Living Dead, except, in this one, she's got two chainsaws, like, what's his name in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. She's wielding two of them, and she's dancing. She's got, paint all over her chest, and it's pretty fun. Now, with a title like this, you're expecting to see some hookers kill some people with chainsaws, and it does deliver in a couple of scenes. So you get two nice scenes of chainsaw action and lots of blood and cheap effects being thrown at the actors' faces, like fingers and just little hands just thrown around, and it's gory. It's very low budget, so just keep that in mind. It's nothing very impressive or anything, but it's still fun. And despite the low budget, this movie actually looks good. This Blu-ray was actually good, and the lighting was good. I could see everything. I hate when I watch a movie and it's such a low budget they couldn't afford lights and everything's just so dark you can't see shit. Like, this movie actually looks good, and there's some colorful lighting in some scenes, so it has a good look to it. I liked the aesthetic of the film and the overall cheesiness of it, that it didn't take itself too seriously. Like, the characters play it straight, but they're in such a silly situation with this chainsaw cult. Like, it knows what it is, but they told the actors to play it straight, and I like that approach. As for any mixed thoughts, I thought the humor in the movie wasn't all that great. There's some cringy moments, some things that just weren't that funny, some things that kind of reminded me of like a slapsticky airplane movie. Like, some of the humor was really weird, and some jokes landed, but some were just a little too far. And Gunnar Hansen, I like having him in the movie because he's Leatherface, and this is like a chainsaw movie. But on the other hand, I think his acting's pretty terrible. I don't know if that's just how he's directed, but he just says everything in the same cadence throughout the whole film. He's very wooden, emotionless. Is that his character, or is that just his acting? I don't know. I didn't like his performance. I wish they would have done something different with his character. As for any negatives, this movie has a pretty small body count. I think only 3 people die, maybe. I don't know, but it's just, I wanted there to be a little bit more here. To me, when you get to the end, it just felt lackluster, and I think that's just because of the budget, maybe. Like I said, less than $100,000. It was shot very quickly, so I guess you gotta keep that in mind when you watch it. The ending is a bit lackluster. I was expecting a bit more there. There was all these people there watching this ceremony, and then one person gets killed, and I was just expecting more there. I was expecting a better chainsaw duel there. There was just not enough there to satisfy me. And even though it adds to the cheesiness of this movie and just how kind of poorly made it is, you laugh at it. It still kind of bugged me how they just did not even try to make anything seem real, like the chainsaws. Like the chainsaws are never actually running. Like the blades are standing still and they're like fighting each other. There's smoke coming out of the chainsaws, but you're just seeing the blades stand perfectly still. Like they didn't try at all to convince me that those were real chainsaws or that they were actually running. It's like there's so many shots that linger and you could just see the chainsaw clear as day, not actually running, and it just kind of bugged me. But it's a little nitpick I had. I just wish they would have done that stuff better. And I just think that the low budget of this film is its worst enemy. It's the problem for this movie is that the budget was so small that they couldn't really do enough with this plot. It's a very short movie, so it runs pretty quick, but there's just not enough going on to entertain me all the way through. So final thoughts, I enjoyed it. I just wasn't overly impressed by it. I just wish there was a little bit more here. I was a little underwhelmed by the end of it, but I liked seeing Linnea Quigley in here. I liked seeing Gunner Hansen. Lots of nudity. Got a couple of good chainsaw scenes. I liked it. They're doing strip teases, and then they pull out the chainsaw at the last second and kill the customers, and it's just fun. But just like I said, could have been better. So when it comes to Hollywood chainsaw hookers, I recommend that maybe you just stream it, borrow it from a friend, or rent it at Redbox. Alright, spoilers. So, the opening text in this movie, kind of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, has an opening text. This one reminded me of Blood Diner because it's saying, like, this is real. The chainsaws in this movie were real. And it's like warning you, like, not to try this at home, something like that. It's very silly. And speaking of silly, this opening scene is like a police interrogation, and they're questioning this hooker, like, what did you do? And then they hand her a chainsaw, and they're like, is this the weapon you used? Like, how did you use it? And then she picks up the chainsaw, and then, starts it up, pulls the choke, and then she's like, this is how I used it. And, like, attacks the screen, and then it, like, goes to the credits. Very bizarre opening. So then we get the first kill scene in the movie where this stripper, or, this hooker or whatever, maybe they're not really hookers. I don't even think these people are really hookers or just pretending like they're hookers, but they're actually just these cult members, and they pretend like they're hookers. They get these guys to their hotel so they can kill them for a sacrifice to their ancient Egyptian god or whatever. Like, I wasn't really paying that much attention to the plot because this movie's plot is just ridiculous and not to be taken seriously. So they're like, sacrificing these people and by chainsaw. They have to use chainsaws, right? I think that's what they said. So she gets this guy, and then she's like doing this like strip tease. She's taking off her clothes, and then she's putting up plastic sheets on the wall on the ground so that the blood won't stain the carpet and get on the walls. But she only like covers one wall, and then she gets the chainsaw out of the drawer and she calls it like her sex toy or whatnot, and then she starts killing the guy. Blood's flying out her face. You never really get like insert shots. You don't see like close up gore of like the body actually getting like mutilated or anything. It's always like they're like it's always like from the victim's point of view of the killer, blood hitting their face, that kind of stuff. But blood still managed to get everywhere else, so it's like that plastic didn't really help out, did it? I like that when they arrested the hooker, they covered her all up in chains. Like, they treated her like Jason and Jason X. Like, they had her all chained up, giant padlocks, like, holding it together on her, like she was this major threat. It's like she probably doesn't weigh more than 100, 110 pounds. She's a small little thing, and they're like, holy shit, we need to, like, contain her. She's wrapped up in chains. It's ridiculous. And this photographer, the second victim that gets picked off here, I think he's supposed to be a real photographer, but look at the way he's holding that camera. He's like, it's almost like he's doing this for the first time because he is like fumbling with the camera. It's like a bar of soap, and it's like he's like doing all kinds of like those pictures aren't going to come out good. They're all out of focus. He's not even using proper lighting. He's using no lighting. So is he really a photographer? I'm thinking not, but I don't know. Like when she starts to like move, he's like, "No, you're making it all out of focus." It's like, "No, you shaking the camera a bunch is making it out of focus." I don't know. It's just he's pretending like he's a real photographer, but I think he's full of shit. And so, but then she takes the bat from him and uses it on him, puts him in the bathtub, kills him there. Again, just like the first death, we don't actually see anything happening to the body. It's just the victim's POV, blood hitting the actress. And then, we see Gunner Hansen, and we think he's just like their pimp at first, but no, he's like the leader of their chainsaw cult, and he's wearing like this medallion, this big old golden chain with like this Egyptian head, like the head of that one thing, the pharaoh or whatever, the sphinx, whatever it's called. He's got that on there. So these old gods that they're worshiping, one of them they use chainsaws. They couldn't have been using chainsaws back then. They weren't invented yet. So I don't know, like I don't get it. So I don't know why they have to just use chainsaws. Why is it only chainsaws? Explain it to me. It doesn't need to be explained, but I'm just curious on it. So then they drug the PI, and instead of just killing him, for some reason they just carve an eye on his chest, the all-seeing eye on his chest, and then they're gonna kill him. Like they have to do that first before killing him, but they didn't do that to the other two victims. They just killed them like right away. They didn't carve anything. I don't know why that's happening. But yeah, and then you can clearly, like I said, you can see the chain not spinning on the chainsaws every time that they're revving. And, we find out Linnea Quigley has this revenge plot going on. I think they, like, killed her sister or something. So she's, like, a mole. Like, she's trying to, like, get in on the inside and then attack them from within, something like that. And then I love that he headbutts Linnea Quigley, and it almost looked real the way they did it. And then I looked into it, and there's like a trivia thing that says that he really did headbutt her. Like, bullshit. There's no way. But even though he does headbutt her in the movie, the next scene, she's not like bruised up on her face. There's no like whelp on her forehead. Her nose isn't bleeding. Where did he hit her with his head? Like, she would have been bruised at least. I mean, come on. I guess she can just take a hit very good. I love that the detective in this movie is just constantly complimenting everyone's breasts. He does it at least 3 or 4 times. In fact, I think that's the last line in the movie, if I'm not mistaken. That's the last line in the movie. He just says, "Oh, and her boobs were great too." That's how it ends. So then we get to the ceremony. We're in the final act here, and they're about to sacrifice somebody. It's been a few days since I've seen this. Sorry, I don't remember all the details exactly, but there's like a fire show going on, just random fire magic, and that was actually impressive. That was like real on-screen fire magic being performed, because I don't think that's CGI fire. I mean, this is the late 80s. I don't think this movie has the budget for CGI fire. So this woman was doing real fire magic, like, and then she's like swallowing the fire. It's like watching Terror Train with David Copperfield doing all that magic on screen, and you get to see it as the actual actors on set got to see it. So it was pretty cool to see this stunt here. And then like he's pouring like motor oil all over something or someone, and they're like all like applauding. It's just very silly. Like, I don't know why he has to do that before killing them. I don't know. It's just very silly stuff. And then we get Linnea Quigley, 2 chainsaws. She's dancing, breast exposed, paint all over her. I think that's the best scene in the movie. That's like the jaw-dropping scene. That's the scene that you watch alone and you're like, what the hell am I watching? Like, this is the perfect movie for a group of friends. But I was watching it by myself, so that I was just like looking around at nobody, like, what am I watching here? This is insane. It was absurd. But I love it. So Linnea Quigley, she quickly gets rid of Gunner Hansen. She just hits him right in the belly. And then there's no blood on the chainsaw afterwards. If there was, it was not enough to be recognized. So I didn't see any blood on there. And then when she's battling the other chick, once again, both their chainsaws clearly not working. And then she quickly kills her, but no one else is helping out. There's like 6, 7 people in that room, and they all scream and flee away. Like, they didn't have their own chainsaws. They didn't have weapons that they could use. They couldn't step in to help out their leader. Like, as she was killing him, there was a guy, like, right behind her, like, 5 feet. He didn't, like, come in from behind and grab her. Nothing. Like, I was expecting a fight here. I didn't get that. I mean, I got the brief chainsaw fight between her and, like, Mercedes, but that was it. I don't know. I was expecting more there. So that was a bummer. And then at the very end, it says, "Coming soon, Student Chainsaw Nurses." The sequel we never got. And that's the end of the movie. So, what are your thoughts on this silly film? Let me know in the comments below. Is it the 4th greatest B movie of all time? Or is it the 1st? Or, the best? Whatever. The 2nd, 3rd? Let me know in the comments below. As always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, remember, it's just an opinion. You don't need to get butthurt about it.